I break my word to myself all the time. I really needed to work on making commitments to myself and keeping them without anyone knowing because I needed to trust myself. If you don't trust yourself, you start to doubt everyone else around you. Because if you can't trust you, how can you trust them? You can rebuild trust with yourself and with God and with others. Step number 1, we want to start. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Destiny Awaits podcast, where we explore what it means to uncover your identity, discover your purpose, and walk boldly into the destiny that God has designed for you. My name is Andrea John, and I am your host. Before we start, I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for your patience as we took a short pause from our Jesus Speaks series, where we were diving deep into the Sermon on the Mount. I know that so many of you have been following along and taking notes and studying yourselves, and we will continue next week. But for today, as we end this break, I wanted to do a solo episode taking from my list of advice that I have. I always think if someone were to ask me for advice on what they need, like what are your top tips for someone to step into their destiny, to live a life of purpose, to know their identity, I have a list of things. You guys know that my top one is knowing God, because if you know God, you're going to know yourself because we are made in His image. But I have other things on that list, and today I'm going to talk about one that I feel is very foundational and I'm very passionate about. Integrity is something that I value. It's something that I put a lot of weight on and I really try to embody. And one of the things that you can find in this topic of integrity is trust. And I'm going to lay out what I mean by that as we walk through this episode. A few years ago, I was part of this leadership program and we had these classes that we had to go through. And one of the classes was actually about integrity. And the speaker asked a question that I'll never forget because it had such a huge impact on me. And the question was, well, really, it was 3 questions. It was, do you keep your word to God, to others, and to yourself? And we had to answer each question individually, but to really assess our level of integrity, because true integrity means wholeness, we needed to be able to say yes to all 3. Because if we didn't or weren't capable of answering yes to all 3, that means that we needed to work on our integrity. And I'm going to be honest here, because this one hit me hard. It had such a huge impact on my life. To God, yes, all the time. If I tell God I'm going to do something specifically, I will do it because, of course, I honor God. I love God. I'm not going to tell Him I'm going to do something and not do it. And then to others, yes, I value my word. My words matter to me, and I do my best to keep my word. And sometimes if I can't keep my word, it's literally because I can't. So I would answer yes to that question. But to myself, that's where the quiet compromises were showing up. I had to admit something that was really hard, and that was I break my word to myself all the time. And as I meditated on this and I thought on it, I started to realize that by breaking my word to myself, I actually was also breaking my word to God. What do you mean, Andrea? How are those two intertwined? A lot of the areas where I was making promises to myself were things that I felt God was calling me to. But they were huge or scary or whatever the case was. So ultimately, if I was breaking my word to myself, I was actually breaking my word to God because God was calling me to do something and I was not responding. I guess that's more of not being obedient, not trusting. My trust wasn't there. And we're going to talk about that because I just had that realization as I'm talking about it with you. You're going to understand what I'm talking about in a second. As I mentioned, integrity is something that I value deeply. I teach on it often. It's something I really try to embody. But in that moment, I realized that I really was lacking in an area. When no one could see, I could see. And it mattered. No one else knew that I was breaking these promises to myself because they were the quiet ones within me. But I knew. Now, over the years, I've gotten better. I've grown. I've learned how to make fewer promises, but keep more of them. But still, every now and then, I do catch myself saying things like, I'll start tomorrow. I'm going to go for a walk every day. I'm going to stop doing that, whatever the case is. And I just don't follow through. So that brings me to something I've been exploring a lot lately, especially in the area of my health. And if you follow me online, you know that I'm pretty active. I'm into fitness, nutrition, and all that stuff. And I haven't shared as much of it lately, only because I really have been working on those promises to myself without even realizing that's what I was doing. That's how impactful all this stuff I'm learning has been on me. I really needed to work on making commitments to myself and keeping them without anyone knowing because I needed to trust myself. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but it was. Now, one concept that's helped me so much is called habit stacking. Habit stacking is when you intentionally anchor a new habit to something you already do consistently. So, for example, I take vitamins and I take them at a specific time of day every day, and I try not to miss. So, I had to build the habit of taking those vitamins because I knew that I had a deficiency. And I also knew that in order for those vitamins to have an impact, I needed to take them over a long period of time consistently to feel the effect. So I added that in. I needed, for example, to drink more water. So at some point, I started having this goal of drinking more water. And now drinking water isn't so difficult, especially the amount of water that I need to drink because I've built the habit. So instead of changing my life radically, I've been habit stacking. I work on one habit at a time. And that way, nowadays, I do all these things that help my health. And it really doesn't feel like a lot of things because they're now habits. Dr. Gary Brecka, he has this quote that I always hear him say, and I absolutely love it. He says, "We are not a collection of actions, we are a collection of habits." And I love that because our actions don't necessarily always define us. Think about it. How many times have you done or behaved or went down a certain way and you made a mistake? It was the wrong way to go. That doesn't define you. You know it doesn't define you. That's not who you are. You made a mistake. That's an action. But we are a collection of our habits. That is what we consistently do. An action can be a mistake, but a habit is no mistake. It's part of who we are. And sometimes we have good habits and sometimes we have bad habits. Our lives are being shaped every day, not by the big goals that we write in our journals or by what we wish we had or what we want to be, but by the decisions or the micro decisions that we make when no one is watching. Now, not only do I have a podcast, but I love listening to podcasts. And because health and fitness and all of that stuff is important to me, I have podcasts that I listen to along those lines. And one of my favorite ones at the moment is the Ultimate Human podcast with Dr. Gary Brecka. It is one of my favorites and it's about longevity. And you may not know this, but I'll share it publicly. I have a goal that I want to live till I'm 120, fully functional and independent. So that's very big for me. It's like my big life goal, and everything that I do folds in under that. I was listening to an episode. I know you're probably listening actually and being this woman is crazy. I'm not crazy. I really believe that it's possible. So I need to learn all the things. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I was listening to a podcast about longevity, and the conversation took a turn into this whole concept of self trust and integrity. I call it integrity because I think it closely aligns. And the guest said something like, if you're constantly making a commitment to yourself and you break it all the time, you're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted. Did that make you pause? Because it made me pause. It was like, wow, that is so absolutely true. I've never seen it that way, even though I had this whole thing about integrity and keeping promises to myself. I never stopped to realize that by breaking the promises I had to myself, I was breaking the trust I had in myself because I couldn't rely on my own word. I want other people to rely on my word, and my word to others matter, but why is it that the word to myself doesn't? It's a lack of trust. It's crazy how that works. Every time I said something like, I'm going to start on Monday, this is the last time, I'm going to drink more water, I'm going to go to bed early, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep, whatever the case is, and I didn't do it, I was slowly eroding the most important form of trust in myself. So I want to talk about this for a second. This is the essence of this episode. And I really feel like it's at the top of my list of advice when it comes to living out your purpose and stepping into your destiny. I think many of us live here. It's not just me. I really don't think I'm alone. I think this is something that so many of us struggle with. And some of us don't even realize it because you don't know what you don't know. But now we're talking about it and we know so we can become better and do better. When we don't trust ourselves, we start to question our own voice. We wind up feeling like imposters even when we're succeeding. We shrink from making decisions because we're afraid we're not going to follow through. We hesitate, procrastinate, delay, self-sabotage. Hello? Is anyone out there with me? Because there's no way I'm the only one. Like, I feel like I've heard this from people. So I know I'm not the only one, but man, right? It's like crazy. But you know what? More important than that, I think, is the effect it has on the outside of us. So if you don't trust yourself, you start to doubt everyone else around you. Because if you can't trust you, how can you trust them? And slowly, you're going to start to not trust God too, because it's all a reflection. Our relationship with God reflects in our relationship with others and ourselves, and our relationship with others reflects our relationship with God and ourselves, and our relationship with ourselves reflects our relationship with God and others. It's all intertwined. We cannot separate it. This is why this topic is so important and why I think I've moved it up a notch in my advice list. You start to wonder, will God do what he said he's going to do? Will he really come through? Can I really believe him? It will impact our belief in him. It will impact our trust in him if we can't trust ourselves. And the reason we don't trust ourselves is because we're not keeping promises to ourselves. The truth is, it's not always God we're doubting, but it's our ability to hear him, follow him, or stay consistent long enough to walk him out, because we've seen ourselves fail at it over and over again. And then we start to question everything, right? Have you been there? Because I know I have. That's what makes this topic so important, because trust is the currency of purpose. Integrity is the foundation of destiny. That's why we're talking about this, and that's why this has bumped up on my list of advice. So let's talk a little bit about what the scriptures say about integrity. In Proverbs 10:9, the book of wisdom, it says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. So walk securely, I see that as in trust. There's a level of trust and safety. To have safety and security in your life, there has to be trust. So here it says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, walks in trust, walks safely. That secure life that we all want, must have consistency, not perfection, but progress, integrity. And Psalm 15 describes the person who's welcome in God's presence as one who keeps an oath even when it hurts. We've talked about this in the Jesus Speaks series. We talked about oaths and the importance of oaths. And this includes the promises you make to yourself. You may not tell anyone, you may not pray about it, but inside of you, you think, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to stop doing this. You throw out that thing, whatever the case is. You don't tell anyone, but you know you did it. In Matthew 5:37, again, another passage we've gone through in the Sermon on the Mount, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you said you were going to do something, do it. If you said you were going to stop doing something, stop it. Even when no one else knows, even if it's just you. And let's be honest, when it's just you, God's in the mix. So what do? If you're listening right now thinking, I do this too. I break promises to myself all the time. Andrea, help me stop this craziness. I just want you to take a breath because there's no shame here. Obviously, I have been there. And sometimes, if I'm going to be real with you, I can still be there. I'm not going to say that I never break promises to myself because listening to this episode just stirred something in me because I know that sometimes I do. I do break promises to myself. This is an invitation where together we can rebuild trust. You can rebuild trust with yourself and with God and with others. So I'm going to share a few simple things that I've personally used to grow in this area. And now I'm going to make it even more intentional. So the big one I mentioned at the top of the podcast episode, I mentioned habit stacking. So this is a little bit about that because we want step number one, we want to start small, but mean it. Whatever you do, I don't care how small it is, you're going to mean it and you're going to do it. It's going to be something you can actually do and you're going to create a habit of it before you move on to something else. You're going to start small, you're going to stay small, but you're going to stack it. And it's going to be so much easier because they're small little habits. Don't promise yourself you're going to change your whole life tomorrow. Because that's where we fail. Because we try to do things too big, too radical, too one way, to the other way. Let's start small. Promise yourself one thing and then keep it. So some practical examples. I'm going to use health stuff because I think it's something that's relatable to all. And I guess some spiritual stuff too. So maybe you need to drink more water. So add a cup of water in the morning. Drink it right when you get up. Drink that water every day for weeks. That's all you have to do. You don't have to add any more water than that or make any more commitment above that. Just a cup of water when you wake up in the morning. Maybe it's turning your phone off at 9 p.m. because being on your phone till late will impact your sleep. So turn it off, put it on do not disturb, get your sleep routine in, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to take supplements. You don't need to turn your TV off. You don't need to make it dark. You don't need to get, blue light glasses or whatever they're called. Just start off, phone off, 9 p.m. That's it. That's where you start. You can work on taking more magnesium or sleeping in a dark room or getting the glasses another time. But right now, just that one small thing. Turn off your phone, 9 p.m. You're done with it. Maybe it's waking up and praying first thing, reading the Bible. That's it. Don't decide to read the whole Bible in a year. Don't decide to read a whole book in a day. Just, I'm going to read a chapter a day. That's all I'm going to do. Or I'm going to read a psalm a day or whatever the case is. I'm going to read a book that's going to help me, whatever the book is. Maybe you don't even read a whole chapter a day. You just read 2 pages a day. Or you just read for 10 minutes a day. Something small and manageable that you can do. And over time, you're going to find that you can stack it because now it's a habit. It's not a big deal to you. It's not, you don't have to think about it. It's not going to take you a lot to get out there and do. You're just going to do it. It's just part of your day. If you were to ask me what I do for my health today, there's such a long list. Like there are times I think about it and I'm like, there's no way I can share this with people. It's going to overwhelm people. But it's no deal to me now because I did start small and I did the habit stacking. And I'm telling you, it works. Make it small and most importantly, make it sacred. Listen, there is no spiritual and not spiritual part of your day. Every day, 24 hours is a spiritual moment. It's a sacred moment where you have the opportunity to be heaven on earth because you are the dwelling place of God. You are the temple of God. Everything you do matters to God, and every moment of the day is an opportunity to be with God. So if you know that drinking more water is good for you, God created you or you're made in his image, he formed you, your body matters, water matters to your body, God cares, that is a moment where you are pleasing God. If you're waking up and you're going to say a prayer, do a devotional, read something that's going to make you a better person, God cares. That's your moment. That's a sacred moment. When you think of it like that, everything matters and there's going to be purpose behind that. Okay, so that's number one. Step number one, start small, mean it, do it, make it sacred. Step number two, we're going to write it down. Guys, there is a verse that everyone talks about, Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain. Even people who aren't Christian, people who aren't spiritual, they know this. It works. I'm telling you, neuroscience proves this. Writing things down, there's power in it. I'm a writer. I love it. Not just typing, I like to write it with pen and paper. I'm old school. And when I don't have pen and paper, I do have notes on my phone that I use and I track things down. But just taking out the brain, putting it into words makes a difference. Track your promises, journal your follow through. Let your written word be a mirror of your spoken word. I was not very big into vision boards. I do understand, even from a neuroscience perspective, the effect and impact that seeing something written down in front of you does. So I have a vision board. I'm staring at mine right now. It's telling me who I want to become, the things that matter to me, of the person of who I am. It also has my health goals on there and some dreams that I have, and it has my family and some family goals that we have. And it's there every day. I'm looking at it to remind myself that's what I want to do. And those are, to be honest, all the things that I have on there are all things that I've been habit stacking. Nothing's overwhelming. Maybe one or two things on there is something new that I have for the year. But I've talked about this before. At the beginning of the year, when I plan for the year, I really don't do goals like things I'm going to do. I tend to do more who I want to become. Yes, I want to become everything that God is. I want to be love. I want to be patient. I want to be long suffering. I want to be merciful. I want to have self control. I want all those things. Absolutely, 100%. But I can't fix myself overnight, right? It takes time. So I always just pick one and I write it down and I have it on my heart and I meditate on it all the time. Now I have a vision board that helps me do that. So write it down. Step number one, start small. Step number two, write it down. Step number three, speak truth over yourself. Every time you keep a promise, celebrate it. Say it out loud. I'm becoming someone I can trust. I'm becoming who I want to be. Declare it until you believe it. But let me tell you something about affirmations that I want you to be careful with. I'm a firm believer that anxiety and depression live in the space between who you say you are and who you really are, or what you say you believe and what you actually believe, because those two things can be different. You can say you believe something, but actually don't. And that space, the divide between those two, is where anxiety and depression live. Okay. So if you're feeling anxious or depressed, you need to analyze, do I actually believe what I say I believe? Am I actually who I present to others who I am? Okay. Because that plays a whole toll. Again, that's another podcast episode on its own too. We have to analyze it. What I want you to be careful when you do have affirmations, I 100% celebrate yourself. Declare it, but sometimes the declaring isn't declaring something you don't believe. It's declaring that you want to believe it. I have changed my approach with this. If I am struggling with believing something because of my circumstances, my experiences, or whatever the case is, the scriptures tell me something, it doesn't match my life. But you know what? Ultimately, my goal is to make the space between what scriptures tell me and what my life says. I want to, make that divide smaller and smaller as time goes, right? So my prayer is, God, help me to believe. Your word says this. I don't believe it, but I want to believe it. Help me believe. Lead me there. Guide me there. Put me in situations where I see that. Listen to people's testimonies. That's why testimonies are so important. People need to share their testimonies more because I need your testimonies. Other people need your testimonies. So it helps build the faith. So declare it. Declare, I believe or I want to believe, and just keep pursuing that thing. Sometimes you're going to need to believe that God is who he says he is, or he's going to do what he says he does because it's in the scripture and you believe what the scriptures say. But in your heart, you don't believe it's going to happen for you. Well, I dare you. I challenge you to pray to God and say, God, I don't see it. I don't believe it. I really don't. You're going to need to help me. Help me. I challenge you to do that prayer, to believe that God is good enough, loves you enough to hear you make that prayer. Because I'm telling you, he's going to show up for you. And one day you're going to look back and be like, I believe. Why? How? When? When did that happen? What happened? I can't explain it. It's happened to me. I know it'll happen to you. So I challenge you to do that. And lastly, step 4, invite God into the process. Like I said, every moment is sacred. God is with you every moment. In Philippians 2:13, it reminds us, it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. He is not just with you, he is in you, helping you live this out. You don't have to rely on your own strength. You can rebuild trust with God as your partner. God is with you and he wants to be a part of this with you. So don't do it alone. Rely on God and watch miracles happen. If you want to walk in purpose, if you want to live a life that reflects who God says you are, it starts by keeping your word, not just to others, not just to God, because when you start trusting you again, you'll start dreaming again. You'll start walking differently. You'll start listening to the voice of God and actually believe what he's telling you. He's talking to someone who's capable, consistent, and chosen. You are not your past failures. You are not your broken promises. You are being reshaped one small choice at a time. And you're not doing it alone. Thank you for joining me for this heart-centered conversation on integrity, trust, and purpose. If this spoke to you, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs a gentle nudge back to believing in themselves. We'll be back next week as we continue our Jesus Speaks series, continuing with the Sermon on the Mount. Until then, stay grounded in truth, walk boldly in love, and keep your promises, especially the ones no one else knows about, because your destiny, it's waiting on your integrity.